Christy Heagy is going to come now. She is serving with Operation Mobilization, and she's been here before to share about her work, but she's home on a bit of a furlough here, and so we wanted to get her here and have her fill you in on what's happening in her work. We are supporting her as a church here in her ministry, and so we're glad to have her here this morning. So Christy, why don't you come and tell us what all God is doing.
Let's just adjust this a little bit.
Tall today.
Turn that extra tall.
Yep. Okay. Hi, good morning. First, I wanted to thank you so much for your supporting me. You're actually, I think, the second church to support me monthly. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. In Romanian, we would say mulțumesc, foarte mult. Thank you very much. And in Russian, it's spasiba. And don't ask me more Russian because I don't know a whole lot more.
Romanian a little different than Russian.
Yes, they're very different. So Russian is a Russian language,
Right.
and Romanian is a language that came from Latin. So it's similar to Spanish or Italian or French. So yes, they're very different. But if you can, I have some pictures and some stories for you. There we go. Yes, okay, so that's, and you know Operation Mobilization, they went, that's their catchphrase, we want to see vibrant communities of Jesus followers among the least reached. So that is the goal. It is a mouthful, but it is the goal of OM. So many people don't know where Moldova is. Maybe you remember from last year, but if you forgot, or you weren't here, the red is Moldova. It is in between Ukraine, so that is the big country kind of to the north, and Romania, and that is to the south. So it has history with both countries, actually. So that is why the Russian from the Soviet Union is there, and at one point Moldova was a part of Romania, so that's why the Romanian is there. And next slide. So this is not a great map of Moldova, but it works. So I live in the center, the red square, just Chisinau is the name of the capital. That is where OM is based, but we do most of our work in the villages around the country. In the summer, I work mostly, right above Chisinau, you see another town called Orhei. I kind of worked in that band, like if you went east and west of there. I was in 9 or 10 different villages this summer, kind of in that region of the country. Around Orhei, it is very unreached. There are villages. When I say village, think of like Belgrove or Waterworks or somewhere like that, where there's a bunch of people living kind of houses, and usually the farmland is surrounding them, and then they work on their parcels of farmland. So many villages have Orthodox priests in them, but they don't have a evangelical presence there. So there might not be a pastor who visits, or a missionary, or even a church member who lives in that village. And the good and bad way that OM works in Moldova is we don't work in a village unless there's someone to work with in that village. So we had some participants go to a village. It was called Puținte, and they loved it. They thought it was amazing. They went back to the village. OM's not working in that village because there isn't someone already working there. There's no pastor, there's no local missionary, there's no church members. So you can pray for that. There's a map, I don't have it, but there's a map of all the unreached villages in Moldova, and there's a lot of them. So so that's Moldova. The thing with Moldova, though, it is a reached country. You can be a Christian there. You can own a Bible there. You can find a Christian there. You can go to church there. It is all very legal. Most of them, however, like I said, are Orthodox. The easiest equivalent for brains around here is Catholic. They're different, but it's kind of the same idea. An old church with a lot of traditions, very works-based. The priests don't help the people very much. They like to take their money and then do things for them. So it's very sad. And so we bring the hope and the joy and the peace and the freedom of Christ. All right, next slide. Oh wait, did you skip one? So the past 2 years, there we go. I've been working with a program called REACH. I talked a little bit about it last year. When I was here, I was so excited. I thought, yes, I'm going to go and work with this program for the next few years. It's going to be great. And this past year, it was really great. So these were the staff members. There are 8 of us, and we are from 5 or 6 different countries. And we worked with 10 participants to teach them about who God is, what missions is. We discipled them. We took them on outreaches. We taught them basics of Christian faith. We taught them basics of outreach, practical things, missions. What does missions look like in different parts of the world? We took them to different parts of the world. We had a great time. So yeah, this was graduation. We were all looking very nice. If you can go to the next slide. So this was after a night, we would take them to church, of course. And so we went to a very conservative church. And so that's why all of us ladies are dressed in long skirts. If you notice, we all have headscarves or headbands on. It's their equivalent of a covering. The boys just had to dress nicely, but we had to wear the whole thing. So we took some pictures because we thought we looked so cute. But yes, so there are different churches in Moldova like there are here in the US, and different dress codes. And in that church, yeah, all the ladies, they wore long skirts, they wore head coverings of some sort. We didn't usually in the churches we attended, but in this one, and some of the participants shared. And that church, by the way, was very, very small. I think it was about the size of that back room there. So yeah, it was tiny. All right, next slide. So one of the things we did was team building. So that is all 10 participants in a row on a piece of plastic. They're trying to flip it over without stepping off of it. And it was small enough that at the beginning we say, try to limit physical touch, especially between genders. All that went out the window here. It was fine. It was really good. And we did take, so I'm there second from the left. The first from the left is one of my colleagues. And we took 5 participants. We drove from Romania to Bosnia. So we went through Serbia. So this is the delight of Europe. And then on the way back, we went through Croatia and Hungary to get back to Romania. So it was kind of cool. Anyway, we went to Bosnia. Bosnia needs prayer. There are about 500, 600, 700 Bosnian believers total in the entire country. There are so many missionaries there that a lot of the churches are primarily missionaries just because they're there, but the Bosnians aren't. I won't go into details about the history of Bosnia. It is fascinating. It is incredible. There was a war in the early 90s. I barely remember it myself, but in the conscious memory of them, it was like it happened last year. So it's just, anyway, so we worked at a Christian camp. It's the only Christian camp in the country. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. But yes, we helped them prepare. All right, next slide. There was an outreach where we told them pick an unreached village. These are not the ones who went to Putzente, but we said pick an unreached village, pray for them, and now go. And so this is them going. They had a great time. They met people. They saw how God provided for them, and it was very beautiful. Okay, next slide. I want to tell you about John. This is a really bad picture of him. But he grew up in a Christian household. He's from Canada. But he made choices that made sense to him at the time, but perhaps weren't super wise. He came to a moment with God less than a year before Reach started. So now it'll be about a year and a half ago, where he was just at the point of his life where he was like, either I kill myself or I follow God. Like those were his 2 options, and he chose to follow God and just transformed how he did everything. But he still had a long ways to go, and he was a little rough the first month or so. Every leadership meeting, his name was on the list of something new to discuss that he had done. And he has a lot of leadership qualities, and he knew that. And so he was very happy to be everybody's leader, and nobody really wanted him to fit that role because of how he acted. He offended pretty much everybody within the first few weeks. But as we went along, we slowly began to see a change in him, and it was amazing. It was incredible. At the end, everyone's like, "Who are you? Like, who are you?" He allowed us to speak into him. He allowed God to change him, and it was amazing. And I think he's a great example of what this program can do. It's like a hothouse, and everything is geared towards the growth and the development of the people who come. So because of family reasons, he can't go into world missions, but he is back in Canada. I filled out about 2 months ago now a recommendation form for him to work with Youth for Christ in his hometown. So he is still going for it, and it's amazing. This is Emmanuel. She was a different story from last year in 2022. She was a good Christian girl who just wanted something missions-oriented to do, and her growth It was less radical, but it was still amazing to watch. Her mentor pointed out a pattern of behavior that was not good in her life, and she just changed. And all of a sudden, who is this person? So she is currently, as far as I know, working for a business to learn how to run a business, to start a business in the unreached world. So that is what she is doing now. She's from France. All right, next. So I want to tell you just a little bit about Moldova. Wow, that time flies. This is a lady, she's in a village in Moldova. Her son, I believe, is looking through a children's Bible. I love giving out children's Bibles because then the parents read them too, and the kids like them. So you can keep going. We do, in the summer, many outreaches. Next slide. There we go. So this is me, of course, with my arms, doing an outreach in a village. We tell Bible stories, we play games. Yes, and the van in the background is the one I drove to Bosnia. So it's not small. This is one of the teams. They were doing a Bible verse in Romanian with the kids. So the guy with the mic is translating. And again, we have that same bus. It was great. This is the Mission Center in Chisinau. This is where I work. And those are some of my team members. Actually, the girl was a Reach participant this past year and worship with the team. Now, I told you my plan was to be in Moldova with Reach for the next 3 or 4 years. It was great. I liked it. And I think God just patted me on the head again and said, "Oh, Christine, it's really cute how you keep making plans. That's not going to happen." And so it's a long story of my contacting people from North Africa to talking to people in South Africa, Bosnia. And in the end, I decided to take a position that is in the Central Asian region. So I will be in charge of training people in OM in the Central Asian region. And then I needed to figure out where do I live. And so I took a few trips. And in the end, I ended up in Kazakhstan, which again, like a year ago, you would have told me this, I would have said, "You're crazy. Like, I don't believe you." And here we are. So this is where Kazakhstan is. It is a big country. People are saying, "How is it so big and I've never heard of it?" I don't know. So there's some of the countries that are around it. So it does touch Russia to the north and China there. Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, a lot of stans. Stan means land in Turkish, and a lot of these countries speak a Turkic language. I will be living, I think, right above the S or T in Kyrgyzstan, so close to China, in a city called Almaty. Back in Soviet days, I believe it was called Alma-Ata, if you were a big Soviet geography person. Right, next. Okay, so these are some photos I took while I was there. Kazakhstan is about 15% Russian ethnicity and 85% Kazakh ethnicity. So Russians look like us, as in white people. Kazakhs look Asian. So there's a very distinct visual difference between the two. When they look at me, they're going to talk to me in Russian. That's not going to help things. But I plan to learn Kazakh because I live there, and Russian because I'll be traveling in the region, and Russian is very helpful to have when you travel around. Everybody has things in their local language and Russian. So there's the, wait, go back. Not there yet, those aren't the pretty pictures. Okay, so that is the Russian Orthodox Cathedral. Russians are Orthodox Christians, Kazakhs are Muslim. So there is there's unreached people all over the place in Kazakhstan. This is a World War II monument, Soviet monument. It is great. I think they're great. They make me laugh. Okay, next. Almaty was not like putting on her best show for me when I was there. Lots of Soviet apartment buildings. They look like, they're pretty nice on the inside, but on the outside they're just ugly. And they're standard. You go anywhere in the Soviet world, you see those. We have them all over the place in Moldova. And that's the picture of the city from one of the hills. That's smog. This is the nice picture with the smog. There are worse pictures with the smog. So lots of coal burning. There are mountains just to the south of the city, and they are beautiful. So this is not my photo. But here we have the city and then the beautiful mountains. On the other side is Kyrgyzstan. So you just go over the mountains and you're in a new country. And is there another slide yet? Yeah, okay, so this is a really bad photo, but this is what some Kazakhs look like. So you have an idea of what they look like, and then that's kind of downtown Almaty. You look up and you see the mountains. in the distance. So that's where I'll be going. This week, you can pray for, on Thursday, I have an appointment at the embassy in Washington, D.C. to get a visa that will extend my allowable stay in the country to 3 months so that I can apply for residency. So I need to both prepare for and have stuff for that visit. And in the meantime, I'm also preparing lots of documents to take with me when I get there to apply for residency. So you can pray for this visa meeting. When I was headed to Greece, this is when everything went bad. So I'm a little nervous, but I think it'll be okay. The plan is to be here until February 15th, go back to Moldova, pack up my house, say goodbye to everyone, and then a week later fly to Kazakhstan and start. I won't begin my new job for several months, so I can have time to learn the language, get settled in, and then I'll start the new job. So that's about what's going on, and a prayer request. I want to thank you again. I do have a piece of paper if you want to sign up for my mailing list. I send out email newsletters about once every 3 months or so. I'd like to put lots of pictures in there. So again, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Does anybody have any questions for Christine before she sits down?
Can you take your car with you?
I'm in the process of selling 2 cars right now.
Oh, boy.
One here and one there, and neither is pleasant. No, so my car, I loved it. I loved it, guys. I'm so sad that I had to it has to go. I'd have to drive it there. I'm not driving it there. It's a 5-hour plane, and it's 6 hours in the air flight time. No. So the plan is to sell it. That has started, and then I'll have the money if I need another one in the future. So it was a blessing while I had it, and I still miss it. It was great.
Are these languages hard to learn?
Russian I heard can be difficult. Kazakh, I have no idea. I've heard Turkish, they're just different than English, so they just work differently. I'm learning the alphabet. I kind of have that half learned. So we'll see. I'm kind of worried.
So now, Christine, you're still going to be with Operation Mobilization.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But now you're going to be working in
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
Yes.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah, so I'll be working in the whole region. So about 20% of my ministry will happen in Kazakhstan, but the other 80% would be if a team wants a training on something, then I will either train them or I will help them get trained. Or if a person needs something.
These will be OM teams.
Yes, OMers.
You're not going to be involved with REACH anymore.
No.
And REACH and
It
OM
ended.
are totally separate.
No. So REACH is OM's training program.
Okay.
So all REACHes, because there's 6 or 7 of them across the world. 2 of them in my new area, actually. 1 in Almaty. So it is our training program. They have different focuses depending on which one you go to. Ours was just, we'll take anyone. So that's not always the case. I won't be working with REACH anymore. Out of the 8 people you saw, 7 of them left. I was the 8th. So it just wasn't a possibility for me to stay and try to redo that. And there's changes coming to the program too. So I just was like, I can't do this by myself, which was the option really. So that's why I'm moving on. But yeah, I'd love to be involved in REACH in the future. Clearly, I really enjoyed it. I think it's great. But for now, if I had another half an hour, I could tell you all the steps, but it just feels like God has pushed me in this direction. So I'm hoping to learn new things, and then maybe one day come back to REACH. Yes, sir.
The media here in America keeps saying that Russia wants to re-expand into the areas that it wants to control. How big of a threat is that, or is that in the back of your mind, or is that just something we're being told?
I don't think that's wrong. I think the bigger question is, can they? And in Ukraine, they're having a lot of problems. So Moldova has a military of 6,500 people, not very big. And we, Moldova, has known from the beginning that if Ukraine fell, so would Moldova. The president's only option would be to just surrender. So, but I I can look back on late February and March 2022, and there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear sometimes, but I was never unsafe. And yeah, there were scary moments, but I was never unsafe. And so Kazakhstan, I think, is really pro-Russia. I think it's very Russia-leaning. So Russia's good with that. Like, they'll take that. It's the ones who really want to detach. And Moldova has a very European-leaning president. Obviously, Ukraine does as well. So I think that's the threat right now to Russia, the threat to Russia. So I think if they, and by they I mean Putin, if they could, I think they would, but I don't think they can right now. And a lot of the other countries, the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, they are EU, and I think they might even be NATO. So, and then the stands, I think they're pretty poor. So and I don't think they're gonna go anywhere. So right now, I think that's why the focus is Ukraine.
That's what I was concerned more about, is you and your coworkers.
Yeah, we had plans. And actually I spent a lot of the spring 2022 in Romania with Reach. So I physically was very safe, and my colleagues, it turns out, also were very safe. But we didn't always know that, and that was a scary part. Yeah.
My niece and her husband were in Russia for quite a while.
Really?
Sharing, and they were even invited into the schools. Are you accepted that way?
So, sort of. In Moldova, right before I came back, there's a lady who used to work in a school, and she was trying to get Christians into that school because she no longer works there. So I was invited twice to go to English classes and just speak in English, because having a native speaker is a really big deal. But I wasn't really supposed to talk about missions or Christianity or anything like that. And this lady's hope was that we would build a good relationship with that school, and eventually we'd be allowed to do that, even maybe just with the teachers. So it really depends on the local teacher. And I know in a village, the teachers are all for it, but the priest is not. And people in villages frequently live in fear of the priest. So if he says no, if you do that, you don't get buried in the cemetery, that carries a lot of weight. So kind of. Yes?
So if you don't get buried in the cemetery, where do you get buried?
I don't know. There might be another one, I'm not sure. Like, there might be an evangelical one, but it's probably not in your village, or maybe on your land. I don't really know. But yeah, exactly, that's the question. And when your whole life as an Orthodox person revolves around the church and the priest, and then all of a sudden the priest is cutting off something really major, then that's a really big deal. So yeah, they carry a lot of weight and have a lot of power, and they're okay with using it. Other questions? I'll be here afterwards if you want to ask more. So yes, thank you again.
That was fascinating for me, and I think for all of us, to hear what God has been doing, and the change of plans for you now. And I think if we paid attention to the map there that she showed, and just all that she said, we all have a responsibility and duty and privilege to keep her in our prayers, especially in the region of the world where she is going to be at. Probably for various reasons. We would do well to keep her and the rest of her team and so on in our prayers.